One of the top questions that I get asked from other authors is how to write an effective hook when it comes to social media. So in today's video, we're going to be walking through exactly that. And I want to start with what a hook actually is, because if you're not super familiar with short form video like TikToks or Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts, a hook is that first part of your video that is going to reel in, pun not intended, your audience, your readers. So whenever you start a TikTok video or an Instagram video, say you're scrolling through social media, that text on the screen or that visual that stops you is your hook. When it comes to selling books on social media and making videos about your book to get sales, the hook is often written as text on the screen. And there are various types of different hooks. There are hooks that are quotes from your book. There are hooks that are summaries of the book as a whole and what the reader can expect. There are cliffhangers that you can leave your audience off on. There are tropes and themes that you can list about the book. So I first recommend, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, that you go onto TikTok or you go onto Instagram and you search for your genre, for example, and spend some time scrolling through the content that you find and seeing what stops you or what interests you, or what seems to be popular and has a lot of comments or likes or engagement on that video. So now we know what a hook is, let's dive into actually talking about how to come up with yours, because I work one-to-one with authors on this, and something that I've realized is that first of all, it can be a struggle to just talk about your book in general. Even though we are so close to it, we are writing it, we are rewriting it, editing it, reading it a million times, we actually can start to lose those really engaging plot twist, exciting points that our readers want to hear about. And the other thing that I have learned is, especially when it comes to a fiction book, is that authors are a little bit more nervous to talk about the details of the book because they don't want to give anything away. And I completely understand. You worked hard on the character development. You worked hard on the twists and the turns and all of the different things that happen within your book. But readers actually really like to hear about these things in order to decide to purchase a book. So if you can give away little hints at what might happen, or some details about the characters and what they go through, or some of the emotional points, that is really effective in getting people to read your book. And I see it all the time on social media. A popular TikTok video will give the details about what happens, but leave people on a cliffhanger that leaves them wanting to go read the book and find out what happens. So the first tip I have for you is don't worry too much about going overboard or spoiling it for your readers. Firstly, it's just one video. So just try one video with a little bit more detail than you would normally give and see what happens. The worst thing that happens is it doesn't perform well and you've learned that doesn't work for you, and maybe, a few people see it or a couple hundred, viewers see it and weren't interested. The best thing that could happen is that people really resonate with it, engage with it, and are excited to go read your book, which is awesome. So that's tip number one, is to just try exploring, giving a little bit more detail. But let's start from the very beginning. And once you've done your research on social media and seen what kind of hooks you, let's dive into your own book. First thing I want you to do is think about your mission with your book. Just go back to basics, why you wrote it, what the impact is on the reader, because first of all, this is all great information for your book description, for any social media posts, for your website, for your Amazon description. So that's the basics, is just thinking about why would anyone want to read this book? And jot that down, write that down, a few sentences about why a reader would be interested in this book specifically. Again, being a little bit more specific than just general, it'll make them laugh, it'll make them cry, it's hopeful. Give some specifics about the plot, or if it's a nonfiction book, about the story, the lessons that the reader will learn from reading the book. And then I want you to go through a few different questions. Now, I have a whole host of questions that I ask my one-to-one clients to get them to dig a little bit deeper, I have an add-on actually in my Book Talk Blueprint, which is a step-by-step guide and video course to using TikTok. There's an add-on purchase to that program called Write Your Book's Hook that helps you uncover through a series of questions and hook templates some successful hooks for your own personal book. But I'm going to go through a few questions that I like to ask authors to help them dig into their book. The first one is the one sentence pitch. So if you had your target reader standing right in front of you, they absolutely love your genre, and they are standing in front of you waiting to hear about your book, but you have one sentence to pitch it to them, what would you say? In that one sentence. And don't go overboard, don't make it 5 long sentences into one. One sentence. What would you tell your ideal reader right in front of you? And I actually recently asked this on Instagram and on Threads to see what some of you would have to say. And I was really impressed, I'll say. I was very impressed by a lot of the answers. I added some of the books to my own reading list because they sounded so interesting. So I'm going to share a few of them with you as examples right now. Okay, Danielle Langan said, "For the souls who have longed to feel at home with themselves, in their body, and with others, my book of poetry explores themes of belonging and purpose through experiences, self-love, relationships, places, and sentimental objects." Danielle did a great job with starting out exactly who the book is for people who have longed to feel at home with themselves. So that's not going to resonate with everybody. That's going to resonate with a group of people that this book is for. And that's a good thing. We don't want to be speaking to every single person. We want to be speaking to who this book is for. And Danielle also lists out a few of the different themes, similar to tropes, like you should do with a fiction book, is list out the different tropes. So she lists a few of the different experiences and topics within the book. Brianna Morgan, I worked with Brianna before with her books. She said killer mermaids, urban exploration, vloggers, a twisty mystery, and queer and disability rep. So she, again, is focusing on listing out some different tropes, some different representation that people might resonate with in her book. Debbie Stokes said, "A man has everything and loses it all and has to fight through lies and betrayal to get his life back, but at what cost?" That's a really great one because it ends on a cliffhanger. You want to know what happens next. So ending on a question or a cliffhanger can be a really great strategy. What would you do if you received a message from a stranger telling you your daughter who's traveling alone in Turkey was having some sort of mental health crisis? Do you believe him or is it a scam? Technically 2 sentences, but we'll give you a pass, Sarah. This was from Sarah Martin. Again, ending on a question, ending on a cliffhanger. That one really intrigued me because it used the word you, which is another tip that I have, speaking directly to your reader. So what would you do? You're immediately thinking, what would I do? And that can lead people to have further interest in the topic of the book. Another strategy is to compare it to another popular book that your target audience might resonate with. Sometimes people will blend, movies or TV shows or books together and say, this book is a combination of Pretty Little Liars and whatever other book or, TV show that might be in your target audience's interests. And so whenever you do things like this, it is important to pick not super niche books that people might not have ever heard of because they might read your blurb or your hook and say, well, I've never heard of that, so this isn't going to be for me. Whereas if you pick the more popular, The Hunger Games is used often, for example. So wanting to be unique with what you choose, but also wanting to make sure that it is a broad enough audience that people would know what you're talking about. So Be Bold and Kind said, "The Empathy Project is for empathy, what The Artist's Way did for creativity." And so I'm familiar with The Artist's Way as a writer, as a creative. That's a pretty big, popular book in the creative world. And so that one resonated with me. Simply Shauna Lee said, "Life after divorce is where the magic happens and life gets really good." That one really intrigued me too. I wanted to know more. Another one that mentioned a popular TV show, which I'm familiar with, so this one resonated with me. Books by Ingrid said, "Married at First Sight, but they're exes." I love Married at First Sight. I watch it all the time with my fiance. So I was like, oh, okay, interesting. There's lots of good ones on this post on my Instagram. So I'll actually link it in the description so you can find it. Chime in with your own pitch and read some of the other ones because they were really great. Now let's dive into your book. So you wrote your 1 sentence pitch. Let's actually open up your book now and take note of any tropes or themes that are happening often in your book. Take note of any interesting or intriguing quotes that could stand on their own in a video. So one popular hook or video idea is to flip through your book or put together a compilation of stock imagery or videos that fits the vibe or the aesthetic of your book, making sure that you are using royalty-free, commercially usable stock videos and images. I like to go to unsplash.com, Canva is a good one, Pexels, Pixabay, just to name a few places that you can start looking for those stock images. And so putting together those stock images in videos and then overlaying text from a scene from your book. So whether that is an educational quote, an inspiring quote, a juicy, twisty quote, that is a great way to get people intrigued. They can automatically tell this is from a book because there's quotes or dialogue, people talking to each other. So that's a really great one. So take note of any scenes or quotes from the book that you can talk about or that you can use as a hook. So you have themes, you have tropes, you have lessons, if applicable, if it's a nonfiction kind of educational book, you have quotes that you can use. Any scenes that might end in a cliffhanger is another thing to look out for and jot those down as well. And then you also want to pay attention to the emotion. So emotion is key. Any points where you think your readers might laugh, they might cry, they might be inspired. They might be heartbroken for one of the characters. Maybe your own characters are heartbroken, crying, whatever it might be. Jot down those scenes as well, and then work on little summaries of those scenes. So try again writing a 1 to 2 sentence pitch for just that scene in your book or just that chapter in your book. How can you really exhibit or illustrate the emotion of that scene? Hopefully you have a lot of notes of things that you can turn into hooks. So again, the styles of hooks that you want to try are, again, we've already talked about the quotes and summarizing your scenes in 1 or 2 lines. You can also try hooks such as asking a question to your readers. So would you read a book that has this, this, and this? Or this book is for you if you like this, this, this. Again, listing out different tropes or themes or lessons that they're going to learn on the screen. So those are just a few different examples of hooks that you can use. But really the best thing that you can do is learn how to effectively summarize your book and then go into the testing phase. So this video is to help you start brainstorming, learn about what hooks are, why they're important in captivating your audience in that very first second of your video, and then putting it into practice. So write down a few different hooks and then try it. You have to post it and see if it actually resonates with people. And just trying something once isn't really enough to resonate with people. It could, be an off day. It could be less people are online that are following you. So try things a few different times over the course of a few weeks to determine if it is really working or if it's not. And of course, you also have to have a good video, an aesthetic video, something that people want to engage with. So I'll link my intro to TikTok video that I've done in the past on some popular video styles that'll really help you with just in general what BookTok is and how to get started with it. But you want to make sure that your video is good quality at the same time because a hook is great, but you also need the visuals as well that go with a TikTok video or an Instagram reel. Now, that's not to worry you. Homemade and authentic really can do well. I film a lot of my videos just from my bed. The background is like my bed sheets. So it doesn't have to be really visually amazing or professional camera or anything like that. But, make sure it's aesthetic, make sure you've done your research and spent some time so that the time that you're putting into developing these hooks doesn't go to waste. So try out these different hooks over the course of a few weeks and then repeat any that seem to do well. If you get more comments than usual or more page reads than usual or more sales than usual, of course, then repeat those hooks that are working well for you. I have reused certain pages of my book, certain quotes, certain hooks many, many, many times over, and they continue to perform well because they just resonate with my audience and new people are seeing those videos every single time. I hope this video was helpful in helping you write your own hooks for your book. Keep in mind that these can be used beyond short form video too. They can be used in other types of social media posts. They can be used as the first captivating line of your book description. They can be used as ad copy as well. They don't have to go to just one video and then never be used again. Make sure that you're repurposing all of the marketing efforts efforts that you're doing. Please be sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Check out the Book Talk Blueprint below. I'll link it in the description. That is my step-by-step guide and video course that I mentioned earlier on that has helped nearly 2,000 authors get started and succeed on TikTok. So I'll link that for you as well. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your week, and don't forget to promote your book this week. Bye.